Cherise Kent is the Green Corps coordinator at Holden Forest and Gardens and is passionate about introducing students to environmental science and urban farming in Northeast Ohio. Cherise loves helping students who visit Holden to discover their passions while exploring the natural world.
My name is Cherise Kent, and I am currently the Green Corps coordinator at Holden Forest and Gardens, mostly at the Cleveland Botanical Gardens campus. Um, I can go into further detail if that's okay. Yes, awesome. So Green Corps is a program that's been around for a very long time, about 25 years. And it has hosted more than 1,000 young people on urban farms, and they've had the opportunity to not only manage the land, but to also explore what it feels like to be a kind of an entrepreneur, but someone, who has business acumen. And so they've identified the value added products that they wanted to market, and then so those and so they've had a breadth of experiences with Green Corps. We recently decided that we wanted to kind of shift the program so that we could expand their understanding of what green jobs entail. And so we host interns at the Cleveland Botanical Gardens, and they have the opportunity to delve into each of our different departments based on what their interest is. And then in addition to working in horticulture or guest services, community partnerships, education, public programs, all of our departments really have extended an open hand. They also have the opportunity to participate in environmental science lessons so that they can understand like why it is that Holden Forest and Gardens even exists and how we are benefiting our community, serving our community by developing the tree canopy and creating more green spaces. And then in addition to helping the young people pursue their own interests and to understand why trees are important, we also provide lots of job readiness experiences so that they can create their own story. That's how I like to frame it for them. So you've seen other people explaining to you how their trajectory, like what will your impact be and how do you get there? And then they have lots of opportunities to interact with experts, both in our organization, but they connect with lots of community practitioners as well, whether urban farmers, environmental engineers, water quality specialists, like all types of people. So they get lots of exposure and the opportunity to figure out like, how does this impact what I want to be in the world?
Well, so how did you create your own story? What led you to where you are now?
So I have always said that I would never be an educator, but all of my jobs as a young person were in fostering learning experiences for other people. My very first job was in a school setting, and I was working in aftercare, and of course, I babysat as well. And then I had an opportunity to work at the Aspire program, which is a part of Hathaway Brown. And when I was there, I realized I love understanding content and then connecting that content to people in a meaningful and relevant way. And so I became a teacher after that. And I'm endlessly curious. Like I want to know all the things about everything. And so I think science is the field for me because it helps me to understand like what's around me every single day. And that was like my greatest pleasure as an East Cleveland teacher, was helping the kids to understand, like, I'm sorry if this is supposed to be perfect, but
Great.
My students used to always say like, oh, that's working here, but that's just an experiment in the class. That's not how the world works. And I'm like, no, this is how the world works. You are learning like how everything is you're learning the laws of nature. You're learning what makes your world go and how to impact it, right? When you're learning about science. And so that's what connected me to science. And I want to inspire that in other people, the curiosity about what's around them and how they can steward it well. But I do have to say, like, one of the things that we really try to impart to our interns when they're here is that a part of your trajectory has to be the beginning, the foundation of it has to be self-learning, right? And so my whole entire life, I've always thought, I really like learning things and I really like connecting that to people. And this past summer, my interns and I had the opportunity to take a strength finders, and I found out my strengths are learning things and connecting people. And so it makes sense that that has like literally been what I've done my whole entire life. But I think that that's what young people need to understand. Whatever field you're going into, you have to know your interest and you have to know what you bring to the table so that you can contribute in a way that's meaningful to you. And I think that that's the most important thing. Whatever field you go into, like knowing yourself.
Right. So what was your educational background?
Right. So I studied sociology and history at Case and poli sci, and I absolutely love those fields, and they helped me to um, ask questions and to figure out how to find my answers, which is also like a skill used in science, right? Those are skills used in science. And then I pursued a master's in education for middle childhood education in science and social studies.
Okay. So, these profiles, these conversations are supposed to be about STEM careers. And part of the problem that we're encountering just, as a community is that when people hear STEM, assuming they know what it means,
Mhm.
people see it very narrowly. It's math. It's only science in a lab. Um, your educational background is in social science, and you're still talking about the same curiosity, the same problem solving that mathematicians and lab scientists talk about. So how do you view STEM in your world now? What is the value of it to you and what you're doing?
I really appreciate how you touched on the skills that are used, because I think that those um, competencies that are required in STEM, from problem solving and critical thinking and posing questions, identifying trends, to collaborating and communicating, like those aren't only necessary in science and technology and education or engineering. That's my education background, engineering and math, but in every single area, right? And so I think I use those skills everywhere, the scientific method, basically everywhere that I go. But I also think like it connects for me right now, because no matter where you are, like this might not be like your goal for the profiles, but like no matter where you are impacted by your environment, and STEM helps you to better understand that environment. And unfortunately, like we understand that there are people whose lives are being lived because of others' choices, right? Like they're facing inequities and obstacles because other people have made decisions that don't benefit their community. And I think that STEM is a way to address that, because they're environmental inequities. And so that's something that I think about a lot. But I also think that those skills are important in addressing those things. So you have to be aware of where you are and identifying the trends that exist in your neighborhood that don't exist in others. And then asking questions and learning how to communicate that to people so that you can address those issues. So I think the skills are present across, sectors and experiences, of course, but also just science in communities is important because people have like crazy social and health disparities stemming out of those. Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about STEM and agriculture, which is, what you guys are doing now. The state of Ohio, it has such a rich tradition as an agricultural state. But in Northeast Ohio, it seems like we're really far removed from that. We sort of identify as Northeast Ohio as the industrial North. It doesn't feel like an agricultural place, but we still have Cuyahoga Valley National Park. We still have these great metro parks all over Northeast Ohio. How do you see STEM and agriculture, or STEM and natural science and environmental sciences connecting? And as a follow-up, what opportunities are there for kids that are interested in that to stay here, to stay in the area and not feel like they have to go out west, out to the wild frontier to experience natural science?
Okay. I think that is a very good question. And I know, so one of Ohio's main industries is agriculture. And in Cleveland, we're very far removed from that because, it's the Rust Belt industry, as you said, post industry at this point.
Right.
But one of the things that I've been amazed by since joining Holden Forest and Gardens are all of the urban farms that are here and the innovation. And I think that some of the ventures that I'm seeing very well integrate, like they're all components of STEM. They not only are growing things which connect the natural sciences, but they're creating innovation so that happens with more efficiency, right? And so I know people who are building shipping containers that have lights and, aquaponics and all types of things in them, so that we in Cleveland can be more food insecure. And their desire is to share those. And so I think that there are lots of different companies here, community greenhouse partners, right? Like they want to benefit the community, and they want us to be closer to our food systems, and opportunities exist within those ventures or those enterprises. And so I think that there are lots of connections, and not only in agriculture, because there are lots of businesses who are attempting to be more innovative, so that they can steward our environment well and create food security, as I already said. But I think when I was growing up, I did not know that all of the jobs that exist at Holden Forest and Gardens, that they were even a thing out there. And now I'm like, oh, I would have rethought my path, because I didn't know that there were community foresters, and I didn't know that there were natural wildlife area biologists. Yeah, like there's just so many. We have animal caretakers also, and we have arborists, obviously, and horticulturalists and gardeners. And so I think that there are positions at every level, which I think is really awesome. And so whether you're somebody who wants to become a research scientist, there are opportunities in Cleveland so that you can be a plant physiologist or a soil ecologist, right? But if you're somebody who is not in love with the idea of being in school forever, there's a 2-year program at Tri-C, and you can become a landscape, tech person and an entrepreneur and own your own business. So I think that there are not only a lot of opportunities in Cleveland, but there are supports to get people there, so that they can explore their passions and be knowledgeable.
In thinking about the idea of community gardens, I think that when people think about agriculture and think about farming and growing, there's the perception that it's a big field and there's a combine in the field, right? And you've got like a farmer with overalls on and things like that. Community gardens obviously are way different. They're a lot smaller. And it strikes me, just based on what you were talking about, that they're going to be a lot more connected to technology and reliant on technology to make things go, like growing things inside of shipping containers. Is there opportunity for kids that might be into the tech side of things to still stay connected to agriculture and connected to that industry or sort of that way of thinking, but kids that might not necessarily be into plant biology right off the bat?
Yeah, first of all, I absolutely love that question, because a part of my internship is to help the students understand that I don't care what your interests are. You could want to be an artist, there's a sustainable way to do that. You could be in tech, and there's a sustainable way to do that, right? And to contribute to this field. And so one thing that springs into mind, I had an intern who was interested in coding. People who are creating these shipping containers, like they need software to like manage lights and things like that, right? And so you can contribute your skills, no matter what they are, to this field. So there are definitely connections, whether you're like literally tinkering and you're an engineer creating these systems, or whether you're somebody who's, I don't know the words because I'm not a tech person, but you're creating the software and equipment, right? So there are definitely opportunities. And I love the CMSD has both an ag tech CTE program, and they also have a program for, coding and all those things. Like, yeah, those programs should meet each other.
Right. Okay, so let's shift a little more now to being retrospective and thinking back about things. If you could go back and talk to your 9-10-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself just about thinking about your career? Looking where you are now and looking back, like what would you tell yourself? I don't know, what advice would you give?
I would encourage myself, challenge myself to do the things that were difficult, and to explore new areas, and to follow my curiosity. Sorry.
What would you tell kids now? You've got interns coming through there all the time. What sort of career advice do you give them for helping to figure themselves out?
Well, we provide lots of tools so that they can, yeah, it's kind of a repeat of what I just said, but we provide lots of tools so that they can explore who it is that they are and how they want to contribute to the world and what their interests are. And then I asked them to reflect a lot on the experiences that we've had. And so as they delve into different departments, to think about what really sparked their interest and what made them feel enlivened and that they could continue to explore, and what did they not like, because that's really important. So I think it's really important to be keen on who you are, and what opportunities are around you.
Yeah, that's such a great observation because it seems like I mean, I still remember when I was growing up, the question was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And
Mhm.
people that would ask that question look for a specific answer. I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an accountant, whatever. But it seems like that's really not the right question. The question is, what do you like? What do you what do you enjoy? What are the things that you're passionate about?
I love, I love that you like pinpointed that, because that's what I say to the interns as we start like these like self-exploration activities. Like, I don't want to ask you what do you want to be, but like who do you want to be and how do
Right,
you contribute? I
right.
love
Okay.
that.
Last question, beyond the acronym itself, what does STEM mean to you?
Mm, I think that STEM means to me exploring, problem solving, making things better, finding answers that help people